Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to be doing the part 2 of being neighborly. We did the part 1 in the last video wherein we saw that Jo, who was a girl from March's house, was very much intrigued by Mr. Lawrence's house, right? She wanted to know what the comforts were, she wanted to become friends with Laurie, she wanted to go inside and explore the place. Being the daring and adventure loving girl that Jo is, she goes over to Laurie one day while he's unwell and it's a very snowy day. So she asks him what he's doing, how he's doing, and what does he do to amuse himself. Knowing that he has nothing to spend his time with, nothing to get himself around, she says that she offers that she can come over and read him something or amuse him for that small time period. Being a boy who was extremely lonely, he allows her to come in and then she goes home, takes her mother's permission, and comes back. By then, Laurie gets ready to attend to his newcomer guest. He gets ready, he tidies up the place a bit. Jo comes in with a dish made by her sister and one of her sister's three kittens. Now, the people they're starting to talk, right? And then Jo is beginning to share some stories with Laurie. They become good friends, right? Then they realize that they both have this hobby of reading books, which is very well fed in the case of Laurie, because Laurie has read way too many books, more than Jo herself. Jo is very excited to find someone who shares the same hobbies as her, and she says that she's fond of books. So now, knowing that his new friend is fond of books, Laurie says that she could come over and read the books that he has in his library. So he says, if you like them so much, come down and see us. Grandfather is out, so you needn't be afraid of anything. Laurie said, getting up. Now, he says that if you're so intrigued by books, if you like reading books so much, you can come down and see our books. And he also says that grandfather isn't around, so you need not be afraid. I'm not afraid of anything, returned Jo with a toss of her head. So she says that I'm not afraid of anything, not even your grandfather. I don't believe you are, exclaimed the boy, looking at her with much admiration, though privately he thought she would have a good reason to be a trifle afraid of the old gentleman if she met him in some of his moods. Now he says that I don't believe you are. Now he says, like, I don't believe you aren't afraid of anything. He exclaimed. He says it in a very nice way, Arre wow, you're not afraid of anything, that's a good thing. But deep inside he knows that if Jo meets her grandfather in some of his moods, meaning when he is angry or unhappy with something or in a rush, she would definitely have a very good reason to be afraid of him. The atmosphere of the whole house being summer like, Laurie led the way from room to room, leading Jo stop to examine whatever struck her fancy. Now, it was very summer like, meaning dry, hot, warm inside the house. So he's leading her from one room to the other, showing her around, and she stops and examines and admires everything that she fancies, something that catches her interest, something that she seems is very interesting or fun to look at. And so, at last, they come to the library. Now that she's seen the whole house, she's stopped among, about at few places looking at them, they finally reached the library, where she clapped her hands and pranced as she always did when especially delighted. Meaning that, she clapped her hands, pranced, meaning, walked around looking at everything, taking, you can say long strides in a very, you can say a very smooth movements. So she clapped her hands and she pranced around looking at the books and everything, and this showed that she was especially delighted, meaning very happy. It was lined with books, and there were pictures and statues and distracting little cabinets full of coins and curiosities, and sleepy hollow chairs and queer tables and bronzes, and best of all, a great open fireplace with quaint tiles all round it. So, she sees this place and she's loving the scene of lined books, meaning the bookshelf filled with books. It's every shelf is filled with books, it's having books in a nice, tidy line. And then there were pictures and statues, meaning there are paintings and small statues everywhere, and distracting little cabinets, meaning somewhere or the other there'd be some cabinet full of coins and curiosities, meaning small things that caught her attention, and sleepy hollow chairs, meaning hollow chairs that were very comfortable. She could fall asleep in them. How you find when there is like an oversized chair that's very comfortable, you sit in it, you can almost fall asleep in it, because it's it's comfortable, and at the same time it's it's like it's embracing you, but at the same time gives you enough space to move around and set yourself according to your comfort, right? Those are sleepy hollow chairs. And queer tables, meaning strange tables, different, unique tables. And bronzes, and best of all, a great open fireplace with quaint tiles all around it. Now she sees the scene wherein there's a fireplace and it's very well decorated in a way, right? It's not a normal fireplace wherein there's wood and then just a small structure around it. No, it's decorated with tiles all around it. What richness, sighed Joe, sinking into the depths of a velour chair and gazing about her with an air of intense satisfaction. Theodore Lawrence, you ought to be the happiest boy in the world, she added impressively. She's like, what richness! She's thinking that all of these books, all the statues, the paintings, the hollow chair, the fireplace, everything is so nice, so luxurious. And she's like, you are the most lucky guy in the world. And she says that he has to be the happiest boy in the world. A fellow can't live on books, said Laurie, shaking his head as he perched on a table opposite. He's like, only books aren't what define happiness or richness. What he means to say is she, a person who has a happy family, a very happening life, three sisters who love her a lot, her mother, and they have a perfect family image where everybody is happy. This boy, he has what is called wealth in a sense that he has luxuries, he can buy anything. But he says that books and all these riches aren't really the thing that can make him the happiest. He craves family, he craves the attention, and in that sense, Joe is way richer than him. She's almost the richest person that he knows in that sense. Before he could say more, a bell rang and Joe flew up exclaiming with alarm, "Mercy me, it's your grandpa." Now this girl, who had just said that she isn't scared of anything, on hearing the bell ring, she's like, "Oh God, it's your grandpa." So, well, what if it is? You're not afraid of anything, returned the boy looking wicked. Now he's like, yeah, so what? Even if it's my grandfather, you're not afraid of anything, right? So, he had agreed with her that she's not afraid of anything, but he definitely knew that she has to be afraid of his grandfather. I think I'm a little bit afraid of him, but I don't know why I should be. Mommy said I might come, and I don't think you're any worse for it, said Joe, composing herself, though she kept her eyes on the door. So she's like, you know what? I don't really know why I'm afraid of him, but I'm afraid of him. So it's an effect that people tend to have, right? He's not very social. He doesn't talk to anybody. And nobody has seen him in a very jolly mood. He's always seen in a very pensive, very, solitary kind of situation. So he's not really laughing. He always has a very solemn face, a grave face, you can say. So she's kind of scared of him, despite the fact that she's never had a conversation with him one-on-one. And she's like, mommy, meaning she's talking about her mom, she had actually allowed her and this boy Laurie was not disturbed by her presence. So she gives reasons why she shouldn't be scared, but still she's scared deep inside, and she's still keeping an eye on the door, waiting for the man to come in. I'm a great deal better for it, and ever so much obliged. I'm only afraid you are very tired of talking to me. It was so pleasant I couldn't bear to stop, said Laurie gratefully. So he's like, you know what? I'm not having any problems with you coming here, but in fact I feel so much better for the fact that you're here, and ever so much obliged, meaning I'm so very thankful to you for all of this. But he says that I'm only afraid you might be talking to me, and he says it was very nice talking to you and I don't want to stop. The doctor to see you, sir, and the maid beckoned as she spoke. So she said, the maid, she tells him that the doctor is here to meet Laurie. Would you mind if I left you for a minute? I suppose I must see him, said Laurie. So he's inquiring of Joe, you know what, would you mind if I left you for a minute? Meaning, he has to go and meet the doctor, right? Because the doctor has to check on him. Don't mind me, I'm happy as a cricket here, answered Joe. Now she's saying that don't mind me, I'm happy as a cricket. Cricket, you know this, right? Like crickets are always happy. They're going from one place to the other. They're always joyous, carefree, and happy as such. She says that don't mind me, you can leave me here for as long as you want because I'm very happy here. And since she has found the company of books, she actually doesn't need anybody else. Laurie went away, and his guest amused herself in her own way. She was standing before a fine portrait of the old gentleman when the door opened again, and without turning, she said decidedly, I'm sure now that I shouldn't be afraid of him. for he's got kind eyes. Though his mouth is grim and he looks as if he had a tremendous will of his own, he isn't as handsome as my grandfather, but I like him. Now she says, she's admiring this picture of Mr. Lawrence, right? Laurie's grandfather. And that's when she hears the door open. She doesn't look back. She's thinking that it's Laurie, and she says that, you know what, I don't see a reason to be afraid of your grandfather. He has kind eyes. And she said that though his mouth is grim meaning, a bit strict, not, very happy, very you can say reserved and kind of angry, right? And sad also, you can say, in a way. And he looks as if he had a tremendous will of his own, meaning he looks as if he's always getting things in his own way. He's used to rule over things. He's used to have things his way, the way he says should happen. He isn't as handsome as my grandfather, but I like him. So she says that he has kind eyes, 1. He has a grim mouth, 2. And he says that he looks as if he's had a tremendous will of his own, 3. She says that he's not as handsome as a grandfather, 4. And 5th and lastly, she says that she likes him despite all of this. Thank you, ma'am, said a gruff voice behind her, and there to her great dismay stood old Mr. Lawrence. So now this girl is sharing all of this, thinking it's Laurie, and just, she's saying this, though it's not all negatives, right? But like telling someone that, he looks like he has an attitude, he has a way of, only getting things done his way, and also calling someone not handsome is kind of rude, right? It's something not you wouldn't say to anybody's face, not knowing that it's them. Thinking Laurie, she says all of this, and when she looks who is there, receiving a thank you ma'am in a old gruff voice, she says that it's Mr. Lawrence, the grandfather. Poor Jo blushed till she couldn't blush any redder, and her heart began to beat uncomfortably fast as she thought what she had said. So, she blushed out of nervousness, embarrassment, or you can say that, also regret of saying something that she shouldn't have in front of grandfather. And then she was blushing so much that she couldn't have blushed anymore. It wasn't even possible. And, her heart began to beat uncomfortably fast, and she thought of what she said, She's kind of scared and also embarrassed. You're in someone's home and you talk ill of them, not something you want to do, right? For a minute, a wild desire to run away possessed her, She was so scared that she really wanted to run away, but that was cowardly. And the girls would laugh at her. And she's like, she wants to run away. The urge to run away is so strong, but, she thought that it's very cowardly. It's not like Jo, right? Jo is adventurous. She'd do anything. So, and she also didn't want her sisters to laugh on her. She resolved to stay and get out of the scrape as she could. So, she decided to stay back and not run away like she wanted to. And she's like, I could get out of this. I'll get out of this myself. A second look showed her that the living eyes under the bushy eyebrows were kinder even than the painted ones. So, she looks at the man. She faces him now after realizing that she said so much about him. Looking at his face, she realizes that his eyes were actually kinder than as shown in the picture, right? They had more love in them. They had more generosity in them. And there was a slight twinkle in them, meaning there was a small shine in the eyes. Now, everybody has pretty eyes, right? Anybody who has pretty eyes, lively eyes, it's said that they have a twinkle in their eyes. It's like their eyes shine. Instead, if you look at people who are always sad or angry, you'll realize their eyes don't they don't have the shine. They lack a shine. You don't really want to look into those eyes. But those who are happy, they're very nice, clean at heart, they'll have beautiful eyes. So it's said that eyes are a way of looking into the soul. So if someone is nice, they have kind, twinkling eyes, whereas someone who's bad on the inside, they don't really have beautiful eyes. So looking at them, she realizes that Mr. Lawrence is actually a very nice man. The gruff voice was gruffer than ever as the old gentleman said abruptly after the dreadful pause, So you're not afraid of me, hey? So, after a pause, he says that you're not afraid of me, right? Not much, sir. And you don't think me as handsome as your grandfather. Now he's inquiring her, so you're not afraid of me? And she says no. And then he asks, so you think I'm not as handsome as your grandfather? And she says, not quite, sir. And I've got a tremendous will, have I? Now he's asking, you think I have a tremendous will? I only said I thought so. Now she is answering every question very confidently. Despite the fact that she is embarrassed of saying those things, despite the fact that she wants to run away right now, she's answering him in a very composed way because she thinks she hasn't done anything wrong, right? So he asks, you think I have a tremendous will? And she says, I only thought so. So she says that it implies that she's still yet to make an image, right? But you like me in spite of it. So after asking all this, he's like, you still like me despite all of these things that you think of me, right? And she says, yes sir, I do. That answer pleased the old gentleman. So knowing that someone likes you still makes you happy despite all these other things, right? He gave a short laugh, shook hands with her, and putting his finger under her chin, turned up her face, examined it gravely, and let it go, saying with a nod, you got your grandfather's spirit, if you haven't his face. He was a fine man, my dear, but what is better, he was a brave and an honest one, and I was proud to be his friend. Now, he talks to her, shakes hands with her, and then, you might have seen that when older people meet kids, right, they'll examine their face, they look at their face, they look at their eyes, and they'll be like, oh my god, the kid is so cute, the kid is so pretty, right? So like an old grandfather's friend, he lifts her chin, examines her face, and says, you've got his spirit if not his face, meaning you've got his nature, you've got his characteristics if not his physical appearance. And then he says that he was a fine man, and what's better, that he was brave and honest. He says that he was a very nice man, a very good man, amazing person, and the best quality of him was that he was brave and honest. So he points that her grandfather was a friend of his, and he shared the characteristics of being brave and honest with this girl. And he says that he was proud to be her grandfather's friend because of these qualities. Thank you, sir. And Jo was quite comfortable after that, for it suited her exactly. Now she said, thank you, sir. And because this man liked her grandfather for the fact that he was brave and honest, meant that he would like Jo too for these qualities. And so she was now very much comfortable around Mr. Lawrence. What have you been doing to this boy of mine, hey? Was the next question sharply put. Now he asks, what are you doing with him, right? Only trying to be neighborly, sir. And Jo told her how her visit came about. So now here is where the heading of this chapter comes in handy, right? Being neighborly. So what was Jo doing at their house? Being neighborly, trying to become friends with him. You think he needs cheering up a bit, do you? Now he asks, you think he needs cheering up? So she always had in mind to tell him that, his grandson needs company, his grandson needs friends, right? So now finally she has expressed it to him. Yes, sir, he seems a little lonely. Now she's saying that, yes, I think he does need company. He seems a little lonely, and young folk would do him good, perhaps. We're only girls, but we should be glad to help if we could, for we don't forget the splendid Christmas present you sent us, said Jo eagerly. Now, that he asks her that, you think he needs company? And she says, yes, he does. And, she says that young people would be great company for him. And she says, we are just girls, and we would be glad to help whenever we could. And, she says that she couldn't forget the great Christmas present that was sent to him. Tut, 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 that was the boy's affair. How was the poor woman? Now he's like, no, shut it, don't mention that. And he said that was the boy's affair, meaning it was Laurie's idea to send over the present. And now he's asking, how's the poor woman? Doing nicely, sir. And off went Jo, talking very fast as she told all about the Hummels, in whom her mother had interested richer friends than they were. Now Hummels is a poor family, and it's like the March's family helps them. Okay, so now he's inquiring about the poor lady, and Jo is giving him every detail about them, everything she knows. She's getting them up to date with the Hummels affair. Just a father's way of doing good. I shall come and see your mother some fine day. Tell her so. There's the tea bell. We have it early on the boy's account. Come down and go on being neighborly. Now he says that, what, that's just her father's way of doing it. And I shall come over and talk to her someday. I'll come over and talk to your mom someday, tell her about it. And then they hear a bell. It's the tea bell, meaning it's the time of the day when they're going to have tea. And he says that they're having tea early because the boy's unwell, right? So he needs tea. Come down and go on being neighborly. So what he says is, keep coming, keep being neighborly, keep becoming friends with this boy, start spending time with us. If you'd like to have me, sir. And she says that, I'd keep coming, I'll continue to visit you guys if you're interested in having me, if you're pleased to have me. Shouldn't ask you if I didn't. and Mr. Lawrence offered her his arm with old-fashioned courtesy. I wouldn't have even asked you to come over if I didn't like your company, says Mr. Lawrence. So he's like, of course I like your company, that's why I'm inviting you. So keep coming, Aate rehna, and I like your company, that's why I'm inviting you in the first place. So he gives her his arm in an old-fashioned courtesy. Older times it was courtesy that men give the women their arms to walk them somewhere or take them somewhere, even if it's just inside the house, escort them. What would Meg say to this? Thought Joe as she was marched away while her eyes danced with fun as she imagined herself telling the story at home. So, she's thinking, what would her sister Meg think of this happening when she told all of what has happened to her sister at home. So now she is very happy. She is escorted to the door out of which she goes back to her place, and she's very excited to think about what her family will be reacting to the story. So guys, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to watch out the first part. That's very important. A very small part has been covered in this video, and don't forget to check out the other chapters that have been posted for class 12 as well. And yeah, I'll be trying to cover as much of the portion in the near future. Thanks for watching.